You're
Thank you.
the clearest representation of what New York City is, and you guys are what makes hip hop great
Man, thank you.
and what
Appreciate
makes
that.
hip hop last.
So I salute hip hop and everybody from y'all, the informatives of the information station, as I would say it.
Yeah.
You know, from you guys having interviews, because without you guys, nobody gets to have the identity of the artist. Continue doing your thing, man. Keep these platforms going.
Changing of the hip hop gods. Y'all are the gods. Let's make it happen, y'all.
Welcome everybody to Changing of the Hip Hop Guards. It's me, Uncle E. That's my partner, the journalist Sincere. And today we have the pleasure of having none other than legendary recording artist, hip hop artist, a man who is a staple in the game, very important to the culture of hip hop, none other than Mike Geronimo. What's up, sir?
What's happening? What's happening? What's up with y'all?
Peace. Doing good.
Peace. Yes,
Good,
thank you for
good,
joining
good.
us, man. We appreciate the time.
Nah, bro. Glad to be here. I appreciate it. Real
So
talk.
before we get knee deep into your career and everything that you've done, man, if you could do us a favor, take us
Sure.
back a little bit for those who may not know, people that might be tuning in from out of New York City. Let us know where you come from, a little bit about your background, and how did you first get interested in hip hop?
Real brief, bro. Like I started DJing.
Oh,
I was like 16, going on 17, and so that was like my first true love, I guess, when it came to music. So, you know, I have my techniques, my mixers, Gemini, you know, the speakers, all that. And I grew up with Large Professor, shout out to Large Pro.
okay.
So, you know, he always been a big brother to me. So I would go over to his crib, and I would DJ there. We would both DJ, or he would spit, you know, and other people would come through. And so I guess that's where, you know, like I first got inspired, I guess to say, to try it. And in the beginning, I would just, you know, freestyle, and it would kind of make sense. You know, I make the people around me laugh and all that. And then, you know, it was people that was close to me, and it was like, yo, you kind of, you know, you sound all right doing the rap thing. You should kind of concentrate and, like, you know, like really try to write something or whatever. And so I did. And then my man I went to high school with, DJ by the name of Chucky Madness, he knew Irv Gotti.
Okay.
And I started recording at Chuck's crib with another DJ named Sage. And, you know, like Rockweiler, all of them used to, they was all like a squad of DJs. So I would just go to Chuck's crib and record, and the next thing I know, he put me in a talent show. I didn't even like know what I was going to do. I was just, yeah, sure, let's go. You know, so I went and did the talent show, and he must have told Irv to come through. And I met Irv, and we talked for a little bit. And he had told me that he had a studio, and he wanted me to come through, whatever, what have you. So not too long after that, we finally got in the lab, and that was it. The rest was history. Like, we recorded it, and that first time we went, we did Shit's Rip. And like from there, everything just, you know, it took off.
Right.
But where was your mind frame at that time? Like, I mean, from the way you're describing it, it kind of went pretty fast. But
Yeah.
were you like, was that something you really were inspiring to be? Like, were you saying to yourself, like, yeah, you know what, I want to be an artist? Nah.
Absolutely not. I mean,
Really?
bro, I was like, you know, I was like 18 at the time,
Yeah.
you know, like transitioning from 17 to 18. I just was getting ready to graduate from high school. And I was, you know, I wasn't one of those kids who knew exactly what they wanted to do when they graduated. Like, I was like, I have pretty much no idea what I wanted to do. And I was just in this stage where I guess I was trying to figure out what my next step was. And this just happened so organically and so easy and so You know, it was almost like everything in front of me was like, okay, now go this way, now make a left, now go straight. Like, it just told me to do it, and I just ran with it, you know, and I didn't have any expectation in the sense of, you know, like, yo, I'm gonna get on, I'm gonna blow, I'm gonna have a deal, or whoop-de-whoop, all of that.
Right,
I
right.
didn't even, that wasn't how I was thinking. I was just like, all right, people like it, so let me see where it takes me, you know. So I would have never thought, bro, that it was gonna launch me where,
Man,
you know, it took us. But
right.
I'm grateful, I'm appreciative. Real
That's
talk.
dope, man. That's dope. I'm sorry, don't mind me smiling, but it's kind of amazing to hear you say that. Knowing, no, what we know now of Mike Geronimo being
Yeah,
such a, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
you're a big deal, man. Not for nothing, but you're important to the culture. You're a dope MC, man, a dope artist. So it's kind of
I
funny that
appreciate it.
the humbleness and just sort of how it kind of happened organically. And
Yeah.
went on to become such a monster, man. That's really dope, though.
I think they say, what is it? They got a saying where they like, man plans and God laughs.
Right.
So
Right,
so I just took it like that. Like, whatever it is bigger than us all was just like,
right.
nah, bro, go this way. So I just did, you know. But again, I'm appreciative.
Dope.
Shit's Real, you say, was your first single. Did you have a demo at this time, or was Shit's Real the first single that
Nah,
you?
that was my demo.
Okay. I'm just gonna tell you straight up, being from Indiana, man, it made me anticipate much more coming from you. You know what I mean? Like that single was just everything. So take us back to the creative process behind that single.
um, it was cool. It was like the first time that I had. First off, it was different because Irv was the first person to teach me the concept of bars. Like, I didn't even know what bars were. I didn't know what a 4 count was. I didn't know, you know, drop it on a 1. I let it ride for 8 bars. None of this did I know. You know, I just knew, okay, when I hear something on the radio or whatever songs I like, the person comes in hit, you know, or if we freestyling, then, you know, you black out. You just you do what you do. So he was the first person that taught me how to structure a song, and he was the first person that taught me the importance of a hook in terms of writing a song. So in the beginning for me, it was kind of, I don't want to say difficult, but it was just different because I just came from a school of like freestyling, and I guess, for lack of a better way of putting it, like park MCing. Like, you know, I was just there to prove that I was nice with it.
Right.
So once I got the hang of it, it was kind of funny because I remember when we recorded it, I couldn't help but break off and freestyle. And the hook actually came from me freestyling on the track. I said something and I was like, shit's real now, you know the deal, it gets realer. Da 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 da. And Herb stopped it and he's like, hold on, what you just said? And I was like, I don't know. He's like, let me rewind. And he's like, boom, Mike, I want you to say shit's real. Now you know the deal, it gets realer. Shit's real. Yeah, I know shit's real. Shit's real. Yeah, I know shit. And I was like, he's like, trust me, just say it. And I did. And like I said, it was just another, I guess, another piece of evidence that it was so organic, you know,
Right.
because like once he said that and that just came out of nowhere, and then, you know, we laid the song and that was it, bro.
Blunt TVT wasn't in the picture at this time, was it?
No, not initially when I recorded Shit's Real. They wasn't even, no. Like, I think we ended up doing maybe 4 to 5 songs before, you know, like anybody had even came our way, you know, and even when they did, even with that, like, you know, Gotti was like, yo, we're gonna press this shit up on our own and we're gonna shoot a video. He's like, you know, my man, he shoots videos, and so that turned out to be Hype Williams, you know. So I didn't even know Hype at the time, and Hype came with like a little camera about this big, and we shot the whole Shit's Real video. And then from there, you know, Gotti had pressed it up, and we went to every club, we went to every DJ. If you was in these streets and you know you was hot in these streets, we was giving you the song, and we was like, yo, just bang it. And like I said, it went where it went. So what more could you ask for?
Can you give us a little? So around that time when you were recording Shit's Real, was just so that people can get an idea of the time frame. Ja Rule, was he already out? You know, did he have anything out at the time? That's before that.
Nah,
That's pretty much.
That was before that.
You
Like
were
I
early
actually
on.
met Rule. Yeah, I actually had met Rule during the process of recording those first songs with her. Okay. So Irv introduced us, and we just clicked. Like we knew each other our whole lives. And him, Chris Black, and my man O. So. And I found out we actually ended up doing a song for the demo called Represent, like in the studio, you know. Okay. So, but this was this was before
early on. So you're talking about early DMX.
Yeah, bro. We Chinese food in the studio. You know what I mean? A little bit, if it was little weed, if we could, we was just struggling trying to get on. And it popped.
What were some of the earlier labels that were interested in you early on that maybe didn't work out, and that you ended up going with TVT Blunt?
It kind of happened fast, bro, because I want to say I think the first people that had said they were interested was Wild Pitch. And at the time, Wild Pitch had like, I think Search, shout out to MC Search. I think he was one of the head executives at Wild Pitch at the time. And he was very, very, he really wanted me to come up there, you know. And then also, not Ruckus, but it was another label. I think maybe it was Tommy Boy, if I'm remembering correctly. What I do remember is it ended up being like 3 different labels that were pretty much jockeying. And at that time, that's when other labels were kind of like we were getting chatter that like, you know, like the Def Jams and the bigger labels were kind of, you know, talking about it. But we met with a couple of them, and we went to TVT. We went to Wild Pitch, and it was kind of like a kind of weird episode that took place. Like another group was involved in some sort of altercation, like, but it was right in front of us, and we seen the whole thing. So, you know, me and Irv kind of laughed. It was like, nah, no thanks, you know, but. You know, so no disrespect, you know. And yeah, then I sat down with Irv and Steve Gottlieb over at TVT, and he was a good dude, and he had explained to me that, you know, I would be the first hip hop artist on their brand new hip hop label, and it was just a good meeting. It just felt like that's where it was supposed to be home, you know. So that's what we did.
Right.
Rest of this.
So you followed up Shit's Real with another monster banger, Master IC. What kind of momentum are you seeing at this point?
Ah, man. It was strange because I remember I was getting a lot of flack from the label because they were like, you do know that you dropped your last single like a year ago, and at that time that was like unheard of. Like no one took a year to drop another single, and so they were like, you know, you can't do this. But at the same time, I think they were kind of like bugging out because there was still some sort of an interest in me with just that one song, you know. So I was working on the actual album, The Natural, and Buck played me the beat, and I just heard that shit, bro. Like, and it didn't even sound that way when I got it. It was like just the skeleton. It did not at all sound the way that the finished version came out. I think he sampled something like 12 records or something like that to make the whole complete beat. But when I did hear it, I was in the studio with Buck and my cousin Infrared from Rough Riders, and and me and Inf heard it, and we just did like one of those like, yo, and we like looked at each other like, yo, you hear that? I was like, yo, you hear that? And then I remember I played the joint for Irv, and I was like, yo, you don't hear that? And he's like, nah, Mike. Nah. And I was like, yo, watch. You don't watch. Just trust me on this one. He's like, all right. And I think of all the songs I did, I think that one was the one where, like, I think every artist has like a magic moment where you kind of, you'll hear what you did and you kind of have this feeling that you can't describe, and you're just like, you know, you did something that like no one else would be able to do. Not to say that they couldn't do anything like it or to rival it, but you kind of know that you just kind of shifted the earth or time or everything. And we listened back to it when it was done, and I was just like, wow, this shit is fucking crazy. You know, and then we played it for the label, and they were like, they didn't know. Like, they like didn't know what to think of it. And then I remember they played it on, and I think it was Hot 97, and like LL was like the guest, and it was the premiere of them playing it, and they played it, and L was like the one who was like, yeah, that shit is tough. Like, you know, so
that's the cosign you want.
Yeah, bro. You know, so just like it was just magic, bro. And like, shout out to Buck, my brother, forever, bro. Like, you know, it's just a unique experience, and to be able to say it was done, like, that's everything, bro.
Right.
So you said it was a year in between the first single and the second one.
Just real, yeah.
Now, is that because
I see?
Right? Is that because when you guys put out Shit Is Real, you guys were just doing something and see what happens? You didn't really have anything else recorded, or why was it such a long?
I think, well, one, I know I was being very meticulous about how I was doing the album, and at the same time, I never experienced any of this, bro. So, you know, where like a more experienced artist might be telling themselves, like, you do know there's a clock, like, you do know that you need to. I'm not telling myself any of that, bro. Like, we going in the lab, we got the weed, we got Hennessy, we got, you know, we in full rock star mode, just being us in the lab. And I think sometimes that was a plus, and sometimes it wasn't, you know. But overall, I was being very careful about the material that I was doing. And then I think the other part of it was TVT was also trying to learn from their misfires because they were a brand new label.
Okay.
And so I think that me being brand new and them being brand new kind of bought both sides a little more time than you would usually have in a normal scenario.
Okay.
You know, but for some strange reason it worked out. And there were always little things that would happen kind of in between, like, you know, doing a cameo in like the Flavor in Your Ear video, or maybe doing another song with other artists, or there was always those little things that would like randomly occur. And it was just weird because it would always buy me time. And so I just went with it, you know.
Gotcha.
Right. I believe you had 3 singles out before you put the whole album out. Take us back to prep. Take us back to prepping that album. What do you remember most about going into your debut album, The Natural?
I think I was like just so, me personally, like I think I as a person was just still trying to digest how much my life was changing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I was trying to digest where I am. Like, like it was almost, it all happened so fast. So it's like 1 minute, I'm taking a system cab somewhere. The next minute there's like a limo in front of my house, and it's all these different things and people calling my house that you like would never expect to. And so there's all these things that I think I was trying to absorb, and everyone around you, I think they're trying to process it too as it's occurring. So when we were leading up to the launch of the album, I was excited, and I wanted to, like anybody would, see, how people responded to it. And I had a lot of anxiety because I was hoping that people would say that I lived up to what they wanted from me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was a kid, bro, so it was a lot of pressure,
Right.
and but I think in the end, I kind of like was like, okay, here you are. You might not have planned any of this, but it'll be okay.
Right.
And I just had fun. I just enjoyed meeting artists that I grew up listening to, and having peers become friends, and being able to do shows for people. Like, that was my rush, and freestyling wherever I went. So I just took the joy out of those things, and I was like, let the chips fall where they're gonna, and
I
it
think
all.
you pulled off something that not anybody was possible to do, and that's having Jay-Z, DMX, and Ja Rule in the studio on Time to Build. How did you pull something like that off?
I did well, honestly. That is that you got to give that to Gotti. Like, I give him that credit, because while he was working with me and cultivating me as an artist, he also was working closely with Hove and The Rock, and he was working closely with D&Y and X over at Rough Riders. So we all pretty much became like a big family circle, and Irv was the nucleus of it. I remember he played me the beat in the studio, and I was like, oh, hell yeah. And I didn't hear anybody on it yet, but I was like, oh, like, yo, you got to give me that on the tape now so I could take it home and write to that. Like, I was amped, bro. I was like lit. I was like, yo, give me that now. So he's like, nah, Mike, chill. I'm going to put X on it. And so I knew who Hove was, because I remember him doing stuff with Jazz, and I remember the Originators, and then
Man,
he
so
had
this
a
is
song. Yeah, so
super early, man. Like,
I remember that. Like,
yeah,
not even the Hawaiian Sophie shit, bro. I just remember
right.
the Originators,
Originate, yeah.
and and then I remember he had a song out with Original Flavor called "Can I Get Open." So that
Yeah.
was my only kind of barometer, I guess you could say, of Hope. But I knew he could spit, and I was a little familiar with him. And Rule, like, me and him spit every day, so I would be at his crib, like, I'd crash for the weekend, and we'd just be rhyming and getting high and rhyming and, doing what niggas do. And then X, at that point, I met him. We was kind of just getting cool. But Earth was like, yo, X is a beast, I'm telling you. So then once I heard everything, I was just like, what? Like, once I heard X verse, and he was like, he said, I did too much dirt to turn back now, and the reason my little sister's smoking crack now. And I was like, yo, I've never heard anyone say anything like that before. That was extreme, but it was the most lit extreme. You feel me?
Right.
And then, Hove with the, like, you don't know what that ass whipping feels like, blazing black to whatever, like the J to the A, but smoother the jazz tracks. And I was like, what? He don't even sound like the Can I Get Open shit. Like,
Right.
this whole And then Irv was like, yeah, they dissing each other. I was like, what? And he was like, yeah, nigga. He was like, Hove is shit or X, and X is shit or Hove. And I was like, yo, get the fuck out of here. He's like, yeah, nigga, they going at each other. I was like, yo, this shit is crazy, bro. Like, wow. You know, and then I heard Rules verse and the 44 carat infrared thing aimed at your jugular. Who the fuck are you? Nobody cares. But I knew, like I said, with being with him every day, I knew he was a lion. You feel me? I knew he was. So I was, once that read, I was on 10, bro. After we did that, I was like, yo, whatever. You know, so it was just one of them good feelings you have as an artist, again, where you know you had like a magic moment, you know. So, and I think it also was like a foreshadowing to me about where like X and Hove and Rule would eventually end up going. Like,
Right.
I think it was the first opportunity that I really had to be like, yo, I don't know what's happening, but I don't think we gonna be here long, bro. I think like everybody is gonna end up somewhere bigger than we ever thought, you know. So it's just, again, you gotta have appreciation for the fact that it's even a moment in your life that. So that's how I feel about it, bro.
Right. Crazy.
Crazy.
Sonically, what were you looking for that debut album? Did you handpick those producers? You had Beat Miners, Shy Skills, Marks. Were those your handpicked producers, or just kind of?
It was kind of weird. Most of them, I would definitely say they were like, and some of them came about during the process. Some of them I didn't even really know until we started working, but it was just the vibe. And once we had the vibe, it was the weirdest thing, bro, to this day, because it was kind of like they all just meshed with each other. Everyone's sound complemented everyone else's sound, and everyone, production wise, created music that kind of was like its own page in the book. Yet every page flowed perfectly with the predecessor, with the page prior.
Right.
And so I kind of felt that there were other producers that I wanted to work with on the album that I didn't get a chance to, but I knew the people that I was working with, I kind of knew like it all played a vibe. So like, you know, when I worked with Mark Sparks, and we like spontaneously just made 3 songs in one day, because that's how good the vibe felt in the studio, you know. And then it was that with everybody, Men versus Many with OC, like it was all organic, you know. Life Check with the Beef Miners, like even when we were doing the ad libs, just to all be in the box at the same time and all be saying, like, usually you go in separately, one person at a time, but that's not how we did it. That's not how we did Men verse. We were all one time in the studio. So it was kind of like we did it very old school, where, you know, we're all, like I said, recording at one time, but knowing where to throw the rhyme to and who catches it next. And that was amazing to be able to do, bro.
Right. When the album finally dropped, the fall of '95, what do you remember most about, like what the reviews were saying, what the magazines were saying? What do you remember most about that time?
I just remember, like I said, it was overall a good response. What I do remember, I remember like my first week numbers, like when I got them back, and it's funny because I thought I let her down, because, you know, I wanted like the first week I wanted like 100,000+ or whatever, and they told me like the first week I'd moved close to 80,000 units, which at that time it was a decent number for your first week for being a brand new artist. But I didn't take it that way. I took it like it was, you know, like I let everybody down. And Irv actually had to talk to me and be like, nah, bro, it's cool. You don't understand. Like, we good, bro. Like, we could work with this. We fine. You bugging. You know, right. So I remember that. And then I remember I forget what magazine it was, but they had like a spread, and I opened it up, and they were referring to me as like the second coming. And I was like with a couple of friends, and it kind of shocked me. You know, I was like, wow, that's kind of crazy to, you know, call somebody the second coming. And, and so I was like, oh, okay. You know, I kind of had one of those moments where I was like, oh, well, now what do I do with that? You know,
Right.
But it was all positive feedback. You know, it was all, and it was overwhelming, but in the best way. Like, it was overwhelming in a good way. You know, and again, like I said, for something that not at any moment was I expecting. It was crazy, bro. It was crazy. You know, like.
Yeah. You just said that they mentioned, you know, you as being the second coming. Around that time, were you hearing any comparisons of yourself to any other artists at the time? Where
Oh yeah,
was it?
absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
like who?
I would definitely hear Nas comparisons, which to me was flattering. You know, it was cool because I actually met Nas through Large Professor. Nas ended up moving on my own neighborhood, and he would be at Large Crib all the time. Actually, truth be told, Nas was one of the people that made me really believe that Shit's Real was going to be all right, because I never forget the day we played it. I played it for him in Large at his crib, at Large Crib, and we played another record called Hem and Heads where we actually sampled Nas. And the nigga Nas was at first, he was like, yo, that shit with y'all, you know, you use me like, I don't know, but yo, that shit's real shit. That should be on the radio tomorrow, Mike. And I was like, what? You know, so just to hear that from somebody like Nas, like, what more could you ask for? You know, so I would always take the comparisons to him to be flattering. And then some people would say Rakim, some people would say Big L,
nothing but greats.
LL, like the people they would say, it would always be people that I would be like,
like, what are you talking about?
yeah, you know, like I was like, oh, okay, but they were always like people you would want to be compared to.
Right.
You know, so again, it was all fast, and it was all amazing shit. You know, and I would just do my best to take it in stride and to be like, all right, you know, don't start lacking on your rhyme. Just, you here now, so what you know, do what you do.
So the funny thing that you mentioned, you know, LL, Rakim, all these greats, Big L, but you didn't sound like any of them. In my opinion, you didn't sound like any of them. You had your own, you know, obviously your tone of voice was unique, and your flow and everything. So like, that's dope, because sometimes artists get compared because either they sound like them or you know, something about their flow. I think you were just sort of being compared as, you know, like one of the greats. You know what I mean? Like, because you had your own lane. You know what I mean?
I appreciate it, bro. Yeah, me personally, I would always say to myself, you know, I would never want to sound like anyone but me.
Right.
You know, so I would take the compliments in stride. And it's not to say that I'm quite certain, you know, you can hear where my influences come from.
Right.
But, you know, I get where you're coming from on that. I get where you're coming from on that.
Yeah, we were big critics at that time. You know what I mean? Like, the fans,
I mean, that's
you know how
what
it
that
was back
was.
then. Right.
Yeah,
So,
facts. Like, you already know.
Right away, we would have been like, "Oh, he sounds like this," or "That's it."
Yeah, exactly.
When Shit Is Real came out, it was like you said before, like, there's those moments in time that seem like magic or something new, something fresh, and that's what Shit Is Real was to us. It was like, oh shit, who is this? Is dope. We were waiting to hear what was coming next from Mike Geronimo because that's how dope it was. So that's like I think that's
And
what
that's
made you
really all
so
you can
dope
hope
because
for as an artist. Like to hear
yeah.
somebody say that at the end of the day. I know with me, like I said, that was my main concern was, am I living up to what people expect of my material? That was like the biggest thing to me. So if that's what you receive from it at the end, and that's all you can really hope for,
Yes,
you know.
yes, sir.
So
Now that also leads me to want to ask you this. How long did it take you when you first started, rhyming and messing around with writing rhymes? How long did it take you to come into like, all right, like this is Mike Geronimo, my style, my flow? Do you remember, or did you just kind of naturally have it like that?
I, you know, I don't think it took long. I think the biggest thing with me was validation, you know. So I knew if I was spitting around my friends and they wasn't a bunch of yes men, they wasn't people like you said in that era, everybody was super critical, you know,
Right.
and you know, being from Queens and being an MC, we all had like an unwritten rule of trying to be as smooth but as vivid as possible, you know. So I knew if I had that and I could keep harnessing that, I was like, all right, because I think I've always been my toughest critic. So I've always been the one within myself. I might write something and be like, nah, bro, no, you can go harder than that. Throw that away, like, you know. So I did a lot of that, you know, and then also I could just black out if the right beat was playing, you know. So I think I just found some sort of way to kind of mesh both of those things together, but still hold myself to a standard of, as I said, if it don't pass the barbershop test, if it don't pass the, you know, the by the basketball court test, if
Yeah,
it
yeah.
don't pass the 40 of your friends in the room watching you, if it don't pass none of them tests, then you not lit. You know, so
Right.
right. So I was just making sure that I would pass all them tests with like A+. You know, and if I felt that that's what I was doing, then that's what I would go with. So it didn't really take long for me to get into that group. You know, I think it was harder to accept being an artist in the sense of, okay, now you have a record deal and your name is
Right.
known, and you know, there's all this stuff that comes with that. So I think that was, you know, a little harder to adjust to.
Yeah, and what the hell is it about Queens that produce so many dope artists, man?
I don't know.
What the hell? Yo, I mean, just within your circumference
uh,
alone is like more than a handful of dope artists. Talk to us a little
yeah,
bit about Royal Flush.
that's my brother, bro. So it's like we known each other for years since we was like kids, you know. And when I was in the sports, he was into the streets, and you know, we always knew each other. And again, same thing. He would spit, he would freestyle, but we just always had that energy where we could feed off each other, you know. And I just take it like you lucky enough to meet somebody who artistically they compel you and they bring the best out of you. And when you do get together and you do things, like you're both magicians if you want to be, you know, if you allow yourselves to be. So I couldn't have asked for a better person to share the ride with, you know, and vice versa with him, like to watch him do his project and to allow me to be a part of the things that he was doing. So I think we always just had this thing where we kind of compliment each other, and we kind of just got to the point where we don't even have to talk to say anything, like in terms of you. It's like we just in tune with each other, you know. So
Right.
I'm with that, I'm grateful. With that, I'm appreciative. And again, it's another one of those things where I'm like, yo, I couldn't tell you how that happened. It just did, bro. It just Man plans, God laughs. You feel me?
Right.
Shout
Yeah,
out to
bro.
Royal Flush, man. Dope
Absolutely.
artist, man. Word
Absolutely.
up.
You dropped 4 singles with that debut album. Overall, when it was all said and done, was Mike Geronimo pleased with his debut effort?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I mean, I can't say that there weren't, again, people I wanted to work with, and there weren't songs that I wanted to do that I didn't get the opportunity. But I think overall, when I was able to listen to everything, yeah, yeah, bro. Like I knew it. I knew that, like I just knew.
Mhm.
Right.
You know, like I didn't know what knowing meant and where that was gonna take me, but I listened to it and I just knew, and that made me satisfied.
Take us back to around this time, maybe your favorite tour lineup, or maybe a show that you did that just speaks volume of your career at the time.
Oh, wow, there's a lot. I think going on tour with Big and Craig Mack to the West Coast, that was like the craziest experience. Like like I never. It was like the first tour I ever went on in my life. So I never. It was the first time I really was leaving New York, and sharing that experience with them too was just, it was crazy, and to be able to go to the West. I was a big Ice Cube fan. I still am. Like Ice Cube was one of my biggest inspirations when I did realize what it was I was into. You know, I was a big NWA fan. I was a big Spice One fan. So just to go to the West, and like I said, you going with Big and you going with Craig Mack at the time that one has Juicy and one has Flavor in Your Ear Out, and it was amazing. Like rocking on Crenshaw at Crossroads. I think the show was called Unity at Crossroads.
Mm.
And like Death Row came to the show and they was enjoying it. It was crazy, bro. And I was a kid. I was like a baby. So to be going through all of that as a kid is, come on, what else could you ask for, bro?
Right.
Damn, man,
Yeah.
that's great. Yeah, he got a lot of first tour, Biggie, Craig Mack,
Mhm.
early Jay-Z, early Ja Rule, early DMX. Like
Yeah.
you just were like in the right place, the right time, the right moment.
Then
Man,
plans, God
yeah, I
laughs.
know,
Yeah.
man, I
So
know. It's just it's dope, man. It's just that it's a dope. Like like you said, a kid 18 years old without knowing what
yeah,
direction to be surrounded by so much greatness, man. That's really dope.
yeah. Like I said, I'm extraordinarily appreciative of where life put me. So ain't nothing else I can say about it.
So you said earlier that to see where Ja Rule, Jay Z, DMX, as far as like what they went to become, right?
Mhm.
But where does Mike Geronimo feel? Did or have you gone to where Mike Geronimo's supposed to be?
Um, how do
Because you
I
said
answer
them three. You said them three. I
that?
didn't hear you
Yeah.
say, but do you feel you've reached
You know what,
where Mike
bro?
Geronimo
Like
wants to reach?
I don't. I mean, I think we all kind of will aim for what you strive for what you strive for.
Mhm.
So I can't say that. Um, I haven't said to myself I'm aiming at X, Y, and Z. But life is very strange in the sense of the older you get, the more you realize that I think if you listen enough, you might still hear the mission call you. And
Mhm.
you may have been under the impression that, all right, I aimed for this and I got there and I did this, and yeah, that satisfies my appetite. So I couldn't rightfully say knowing what I know now in the
Right.
sense of knowing what I'm working on and what I'm about to do.
Okay.
I couldn't rightfully say like there's a whole nother chapter. You understand?
Right.
I kind of feel, in one sense, I feel like to be regarded, to hear the things that people tell me, to read the comments people leave me, to be able to, review my own journey. This is more than I ever asked for. It's more than I could have ever wanted. I wouldn't have had the slightest idea of even how to begin to ask for all these things. So in that sense, it's beyond what I would have ever seen myself being,
Right.
or being regarded as, or being a part of. And it's an honor you have to no end, and it's a gratefulness that you have to no end. It is one of the components that give me joy, as a person, as somebody that has lived life, whatever. But then again, like I said, you just never know, bro. And it's like weird with me. Like, there's always this thing that happens where it's like, oh yeah, but guess what? There's like a whole nother part to this movie. So are you ready for that too? And no, I never was for any of it. Okay, well, you'll be fine. You always seem to make yourself ready. So I do think there's another part of my journey. And I do have that same feeling where I kind of just, you can't tell people how you know, but you just do. And that feels so dope to have. So I think there will come a point one day where I could sit and be like, yeah, all right, cool. You are where you are, and you did what you did, and that's enough. You can rest.
Right.
So,
Well, hopefully that's not yet, though, man. Hopefully not yet.
No,
We want some more Mike Geronimo, bro.
Oh yeah. Like, it's like I said, it's. I feel good, bro. I actually at this point feel like I outdid the natural with the project that's about to come out. So I couldn't be any happier as a person, as an artist. I couldn't be any happier.
Dope.
The debut album does its thing. A year later, you get ready for Vendetta. What was the game plan, and what adjustments did you make from the first album going into the second album?
I think with Vendetta, the label, myself and my team, I think we all wanted to see how far we could push things. And a lot more had came into play, in terms of how things had developed. And so it gave me an opportunity to work with Bad Boy and work with Puff. And we've been talking about doing that for a sec. It gave me an opportunity to work more with Rule and X and a whole. And they were blooming as artists, and they were becoming these bigger than life forces that were like out of this galaxy. So
Right.
it gave that an opportunity. It gave me to continue to create with a couple of the people that I had initially worked with on the natural, in the sense of like Pete Rock and Havoc. And it also gave me a chance to, I guess, try to broaden my appeal.
Mm-hmm.
So all those things were in play, and it was funny because just like I took a year between singles, I kind of took my own sweet time with the second album.
Right.
So I remember the label like, you want to record now? And I was like, nah, not yet. Not yet. But as that was occurring, rap itself was changing. And it was going from being, for lack of a better word, as uncut and as it got cleaner, and it got bigger, and it got more commercial. And it became this thing that was just eating every other genre of music. And so, music was changing. And I think going into Vendetta, I think I realized that the landscape was shifting. but I also knew that there were things that I could do that people maybe didn't expect from me. And so, like I said, like the Natural probably didn't have room for a record with P. Diddy, with Puff, but
Right.
Vendetta allowed me that space, and it allowed for that to set a tone. So
Right.
that's pretty much how it was.
The album produced 2 singles.
Mhm.
Why only 2 singles, and what was the relationship like with TVT at this time?
At that time, I think there were signs that TVT was kind of having their own trouble, I guess, with figuring out what they were as a hip hop label. And I think they were going through a lot of growing pains in terms of figuring out personnel and direction and emphasis and all these different things. And I think sometimes things happen with myself that they kind of weren't, for lack of a better way, prepared for, because the response was way bigger of a magnitude than they may even have thought. And so, watching that over the course of time, and I think the other part of it was I had a very unique relationship with TVT. Like, it was almost like I worked there myself in a sense. But, in retrospect, I don't know that I would say having a relationship that close with your label, it has its pros and it has its cons. I mean, and the good part is that you do always have an opportunity to kind of put your input into things, and they allow that open door for you to discuss everything. But the con of that is that you're able to witness all the things, good and bad, play out in real time. And so I think it came to a point where we started to I could kind of feel the beginning of the ground becoming a little thin between us, or underneath of us rather. But I still would kind of put the best effort forward, and just believe that would alleviate itself at some point. And I was concentrating on doing an album, so some of the things we wanted to do were bigger than they were anticipating. It was a very expensive album at the end of the day, which is never really good for an artist unless you're in the position to know that payoff was certified to be the return. And you can't have that certifiable return if you don't have your own house of cards in order. So TVT kind of was going through, they just couldn't figure out how to properly put both their feet on the ground. And that became the genesis of, things that led to us, going separate ways. And as that was occurring, I think a little bit of tension started to initially take place between myself and Gotti in a creative sense. And I also think that it was at a time where, his energy was translating into other things, such as Ja Rule, and such as Jay-Z, and such as DMX, and such as Def Jam. And I think all of that, I kind of knew it was a matter of time before all of that kind of collided. But I think we all kind of did our best to try to avoid that collision. But some things are just inevitable, so you can't really, get around them, And that's pretty much what that was at that time.
Right. Were you the initial deal for 2 albums, or were there for more, and you just kind
It
of
was
wanted
actually more. No,
okay.
it was way more. It was way more than that. And I actually had an open budget which was pretty much unheard of for an independent artist. So I was just in a very weird situation. Like, there's not much that if I asked for it, I couldn't have received as an artist in terms of what the label would do. But I think that because of them not being able to find their footing, they kind of were blindly firing figuratively on everything and everyone, you know, and that can only last for so long.
Right. I think one of the greatest moments that we hip hop fans have to go back and look at is Cannabis, yourself, John Forte, Big Pun at the cafe. Can you take us back to how that day came about, the phone call, what was supposed to go on that day, and how everything transpired?
It's funny because I try to remember like how you just asked it, like the phone call. I don't remember no phone call, bro. I just remember me and Herb going to the label, and they might have said something like I had to go through something such and such here, there, whatever. I just remember Herb be like, "Yo, we going to get up with X," and I was like, "All right, cool." You know, and I thought he meant like we was just going to see X, you know, because I would always love to just go chill and hang with X on some cool shit. But we ended up at this restaurant and it was cameras, and I think it was Torre. Shout out to Torre. He was sitting there, and I remember Pun was sitting there, and John and Most Def and Cannabis, and then X came in, and we all just sat down, and I was like, yo, this is cool. We sitting here drinking, having a good time, just talking, smoking, eating. But the camera was there, and I think it just got to a point where none of us even pretty much paid attention to that. Like, I think Teray would kind of, you know, guide the conversation through maybe a line of questioning, but again, it was really organic, bro. It was just 5 people that respect each other, got love for each other, and we just sitting down, and we just all so happen to be artists, you know, and it was cool, you know, to show the world that camaraderie,
Right.
you know, and it was cool to, I think it was maybe one of the rare glimpses people get, and they see that, okay, well, they're just as they go through all the same things we all go through out here, and they think the same way that we all think out here. And it would be no different if they was all sitting in the barbershop, or if they was all in the park, or if they was all, you know, wherever it is where you gather with your folks and you have them good combos, and you know, next thing you know, everybody in a cipher rhyming. Like, that's what that was at that time. So to be able to capture that and to be able to be a part of that, like, it ain't no words for that, bro. You know, there's no words for
After the deal with TVT Blunt, where does Mike Geronimo find himself?
it. Walk out the label. So I remember I had no plan at all to like go there that day, and you know, whatever to transpire, and you know, like say, okay, I'm done with all of this. But that was pretty much what happened. I went to the label one day, and I think I was busy fighting my own wars with myself. Like, I think I was questioning whether, you know, I enjoyed doing music the way I enjoyed it when I had initially came into the game, you know, and if I wanted to continue to try and hold on to all these different things, but there's all these other things pulling you in 1,000 directions. So I look at it now in hindsight, like everything happens for a reason, and I think for whatever reason, everything occurred on that day, at that time, at that place, that led me to just say, all right, I think I'm done, you know. And my attorney like was talking to, you know, Steve Gottlieb, who owns TVT, and he's like, yeah, you can go if you want. And I was like, yeah, I just had enough. And so after that, I just started to, I said, all right, if I am walking away, then I'm good. Like, I can't say that I didn't do things that I never thought I would have never done. I can't say that I haven't been to places I never thought I would go. I've had like the time of my life, but I'm good if this is where it all, stopped. And then from there, I just took time for myself, which it ironically gave me the first time in my whole, I guess, run to actually say, like, yo, it's okay for you to think, be still, get focused, review, renew, grow, experience. And so I just got back to the things that we all do. I found my footing, and not long after that, I actually had gotten involved in security installations and locksmithing, and that led me to open a company of my own. And now I've owned my business for close to 14 years.
Nice.
One of the most high rated on Angie's, and I have employees that do things and do jobs, and I have a small family business, and none of that would have come about had I not made the decision I made that day. I've been married now for 15 years. I have the three most beautiful kids under the sun. All three of my sons are, they're 10, they're 8, and 7 years old, 6 years old. And I don't think that going the way I was going with hip hop would have ever allowed for those things to come into my life and into my existence. And so to me now, in hindsight, to look at it, I think we all have those moments where you just can't tell where life is going to take you.
Right.
But I'm so grateful that I allowed myself to experience. You can't tell where life is going to take you, because, it's brought me the things that matter more than anything under the sun, which is my wife, my kids, and being a small business owner. And those are all things that, as I said, like, you could plan and God laughs again, so here we are, and I don't regret any of it. And I'm incredibly grateful that whatever it was that led me to walk that way at that time did it. So here we are.
Right. You dropped projects throughout the 2000s. What keeps Mike Geronimo inspired to make music throughout the years?
I think it's just in me, bro. Like, I just think it's just in me to do. I don't think I ever do it just to do it. I like, music is like my religion. It's my temple, it's my prayers, it's all of that. And you can't suppress that as an individual. Like, we all are who we are, and we all do what we're supposed to do, and so it's just me. And as long as I enjoy it, as long as I'm inspired, as long as it helps me to communicate with the rest of the world that exists around me, bro, and all its inhabitants, like, hell yeah. And I think, I think good artists or MCs, I think we all know when, when we've done enough, when it's kind of like when you're at that point. So I'll know when I'm at that point,
Right.
when it's like, all right, you're good, bro, but that's what keeps me going.
Right. It's 2022. Catch us up on what Mike Geronimo is currently working on.
Oh man. Well, we actually just finished shooting videos in the A. So right now, shooting videos, visuals to what we've done. I'm completing the project I'm working on now, which is called 3016. That pretty much my dad was NYPD and he passed away a couple of years ago, but his badge number was 3016. And
No. Very sorry to hear
he
that.
asked, it's okay, things happen, I appreciate it, but he asked me, if I ever felt like going in the studio. He was kind of like, you should go in the studio. And my dad had never given me that talk before in life, so I promised him, like, if ever I feel that way about it, I'll do it because you asked me to. So here we are again, man. Plans, God laughs. It all came out of nowhere again. The next thing I know, I'm in the studio with DJ Toon. Who's like a brother to me at this point now, and Rhythm D of Death Row, and Mr. Lee, who's done a slew of things for everyone from Nipsey to Scarface to Face Mob, and the project's crazy. It's insane, and I'm not finished yet. Like, I think I'm doing that thing where I'm kind of trying to make certain that it's of the expectation and the approval that, is expected. So I'm having a blast working on it, bro. Like I said, I think I floored I know I floored the natural, but, you'll see.
Nice.
Yeah, bro. Yeah. So I'm excited. There ain't no word for it. And to be able to do it too, like with my kids around. It's like the first time I've ever been able to record a project and like my kids know everything that's going on and they can ask you those questions that only like a 10-year-old boy could ask you.
Right.
It's crazy. So but it's the dopest experience ever, so I'm enjoying it. It's great.
Very dope. Outside of music, any other avenues you look to explore?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I'm still a small business owner, so every day is about expanding my business and opening up my client base and becoming more commercialized and leaving my boys with something that if they want to down the road they can pick up and run, and if not then they can sell it to whoever. So there's that, and then definitely getting back to acting, and doing that a lot more. I'm actually in the process of beginning to, I guess, co-author the book, co-biography. So I'm doing that as well. So, and then there's other things, like shout out to Steve and the team at Cookies and all of them. Like, there's things I'm doing in on that side of things in terms of, the whole cannabis explosion that's taken place, so it's a lot that I have my hands in that you'll see, bro.
Nice. So your relationship with Irv Gotti at this point in time is cool? Or
I guess if from my perspective, like, it's cool with me.
okay.
I'm always gonna have a respect for him and love for him in a sense of like what we did together was crazy, right?
Right.
Historic.
Yeah, so it was exactly. So I could never not have love and respect for him, and I would never not look at him like he's not my brother at the end of the day. Brothers don't always see,
absolutely.
Right.
And that's okay, but at the end of the day, I want Herb to have the most joy-filled, successful life that he could possibly have, and as long as he's okay and as long as he's happy with everything going on, then I'm okay and I'm happy with everything regarding him. So I love him to death, but I wouldn't have it no other way, But it doesn't mean we're gonna always see eye to eye, and that's
of course not. Yeah, that's life, man. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, exactly. So shout out to Herb.
Well, Mike Geronimo, we want to thank you for everything you've done for the culture. Thank you for spending the Sunday with us. We got one last question before we get out of here. I'll let Uncle E wrap it up.
I appreciate it.
Before I ask you that though, the single "Got 'Em," right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What? how did that come about? You know what I mean? What was the idea behind that, man? That song kind of took me, it took me back to like the good old times when we just could go and have fun. It didn't matter how hardcore you were, you still could go and
Yeah.
dance a little bit. You know what I mean? How'd that
I
come
just
about?
felt like spitting, bro,
Yes. Yeah.
and my manager, shout out to Shampoo YVS, who sucks
Okay.
shit. So shout out when my manager heard it, he's actually the person that had me like he said what you say. He's like, yo, this room it gives you that feel good back in the day. Everything is
Yeah.
not, about ops and
Right.
you know all that shit. And I was like, yo, it's just how I felt that when I heard the beat, and I just wanted to explode, and just go
Yeah.
0 to 100.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I just went and did it. My man Nick Wiz sampled the joint up for me. Shout out to Nick Wiz. And I got to record it in Los Angeles when I was out there working, so it was just a whole vibe, and I was just in my zone, bro. I just felt it's a lot of I feel good in the studio happening these days. So really,
Good.
I'm
Good.
keep it a buck. Gotham is like an appetizer, bro.
Nice.
Like if you like that one, you gonna love the shit. So but to
Nah,
hear that is
it put a smile on my face when I heard it, man. I
good,
was like,
good,
damn, this
bro.
is what I miss. Just have some
Yeah,
fun sometimes. Dope song,
yeah.
man. But
I appreciate it.
just before we get out of here, the last question for the day is me and you, I believe, we about to come up on the big 5-0 pretty soon,
Pretty soon. I'm
right?
not exactly there yet.
Almost.
I got a couple of years, and very small couple of years before I hit that window. But I'm
Well,
squeaking wide out. We OGs, bro. It is
yeah,
what it
yeah,
is.
yeah. But I say that to say we also we're pretty much there with hip hop culture. They're getting
Yeah.
hip hop culture is getting ready to celebrate 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
So we just wanted to know a changing of the hip hop guards. What's your take on hip hop culture about to celebrate 50 years? What does that mean to you?
It's crazy, bro. Because it's just I think we're very fortunate to be able to say that we lived it from its birth to where it currently exists. And to be able to and then to be able to be a piece of that puzzle is extraordinary, to
Right.
say, you know, but we've got we've been able to experience it from its genesis to where it is now, and we've seen it evolve, and we've seen it become, break off into different genres. And I remember the days where you only got to hear hip hop twice a week, on Friday
Right.
and Saturday, and that was only for about 3 hours on mainstream radio.
Yep.
And then the rest of the week, you had to kind of fish through like underground stations. And, that's all the hip hop you got,
Yep.
and if it wasn't that, then you had to rely on like mixtapes and things like. So to see it go from 3 hours on a weekend to mixtapes here and there to now they got like leagues of battle rappers, and now it's the biggest selling genre of music. And culturally what it's done, and there's hip-hop museums, and there's no commercial that's not hip-hop, and everybody's hip-hop. And it's insane, to watch it become this thing that you honestly could never wrap your arms around. You could never be able to contain it. It's phenomenal, but as I said, just to be a witness to that evolution, to be able to be a kid growing up in New York and experience that, and then also to somehow, some way, by some strange chance, play a part in that. Come on, man. That's like a ribeye steak, bro. That's like a tomahawk steak every day of your life, bro. You know what I mean? And a rocktail lobster like every day of your life, bro. And even that wouldn't describe it,
Right.
So
Right.
it's
Right.
amazing. And I'm just like, I'm so happy that it's one of those things I could look at and be like, yo, and I got to see that too with my own eyes, you know. So
got to see it and participate in it.
And participate and feel it and experience it. Like I said, that's that Tomahawk and Rocktail every day that doesn't begin to describe the feeling, you know. So for it to be 50, I'm so happy for it, bro. Like just for it, I'm so happy that it gets to celebrate that and it gets to become that, and you know that we get to share in that. So that's crazy.
Dope. So by the way, I'll edit that part out when I was saying we're about to turn 50. Maybe we'll take that out.
Why? You shame you don't. I'm cool with it.
You don't look anywhere near it, bro. You can still pass for like 25.
What happened, bro?
I said you could pass for like 25 still, man. I can't hide
Stop playing.
So maybe I'll edit it, man.
I'm proud of that, bro.
I'm joking, baby.
I'm having a time of I think that's one of the biggest reasons why I am having a time of my life is because I do realize that, you know, we're fortunate enough to have had that much time on this earth, and it's still time that we're granted. And yo, to be able to say that, bro, you know what I mean? And even now, just us three just sitting here chatting, bro, like that's lit. I'm like, come on, stop, bro.
No doubt, man. So Mike Geronimo, man, listen, on behalf of Changing Up the Hip Hop Guards, the journalist Sincere, myself, Uncle E, we appreciate you. Thank you for all you've done for the culture, for music, providing us with such great music and an anthem to our lives. Much continued success, man. Keep it going. And like I always tell a lot of the artists that we have the pleasure of interviewing that have been around, keep it going, bro. You still got fans out here that want to hear music from our favorite artists. So
say less. I got you.
Keep it going.
I definitely got you. I appreciate y'all having me, bro. I had a great time on here with y'all, bro. So
thank you.
You know, like, please, man, we can do this again. I'm appreciative. I'm glad that I was, you know, able to come on. Man.
Thank you so much.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.
See you again soon. All right.
Yes, sir. Y'all be cool.
You
too.
Right.
One.